start off by giving an introduction about my presentation and about myself. So my presentation is entitled A Journalist's Perspective of the Blockchain Industry. And before I go into the presentation, I'll just, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'll give some background. My name is Rachel Wolfson, and I'm a reporter with Cointelegraph. I've been writing about the blockchain and cryptocurrency space for over 3 years now. Since 2017, I've been writing about the space. And I've been with various publications. So I started with Huffington Post in 2017. My first article focused on blockchain for supply chain management. And I found it fascinating that this technology powering Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies could also be applied in, the real world. So I think that's really what caught my attention with blockchain, was the fact that I, thought Bitcoin was great, and the fact that the technology could be applied elsewhere, which I still think is really cool. So from Huffington Post, I ended up becoming a staff writer at Bitcoin Magazine in December 2017. I connected with an editor at Bitcoin Magazine when I was at my first Bitcoin conference in Hong Kong, right before Bitcoin hit its all-time high in December 2017. And then around February 2018, I became a contributing writer for Forbes. And I was with Forbes for about 2 years. March 2018, I also joined the Bad Crypto podcast as a podcast host for the Crypto Chick Show. So I am a part of the Bad Crypto crew. I'm really proud of that, and I really enjoy doing the podcast. And then in November 2019, I became a reporter with Cointelegraph, where I am currently still writing and loving every minute of that. So that's kind of my journey into the space with different publications. And so far so good. So great. So with that in mind, I will just kind of tell you guys a little bit about my experience in the space for the time that I've been in. Joel, if we can go to I think it starts with 2017, the slide about the ICO craze, and then it kind of is a timeline. Yeah, great, thank you. So when I first started reporting about the space, it was 2017, and ICOs were really cool back then. People weren't really interested in the technology as much as they were about, cryptocurrency and this new fundraising method called initial coin offerings. Keep in mind, Bitcoin did hit its all-time high in December 2017. So when I first entered the space, it was really all about crypto. It was all about ICOs and raising money and these cryptocurrency startups, emerging, and people fundraising through, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of that. So it was really starting to gain hype in 2017. Interestingly enough, after Bitcoin hit its all-time high in December 2017, it reached almost $20,000 for one Bitcoin. Enterprises started to get interested in the space. At least that's what I think, from my perspective. I started seeing in 2018 the emergence of enterprise blockchain. And I don't know if it was because Bitcoin really hyped up the space and people started realizing, oh, blockchain can be used as, a technology for real world applications. I'm not really sure why 2018, enterprises started getting interested in that, but that's what I saw. So enterprise blockchain emerged in 2018. When I say enterprise blockchain, some of you might be wondering, what does that mean? So let me explain that to you. So enterprise blockchain is basically enterprises leveraging blockchain as a technology for real world applications. So for instance, IBM blockchain, one of my, I report on them a lot and I really like the team there. So IBM blockchain is really doing a lot in terms of using the technology to power really interesting real world applications. For instance, IBM's Food Trust Network. The Food Trust Network has nothing to do with cryptocurrency whatsoever, but it's completely powered by the IBM blockchain network, which is powered by Hyperledger Fabric, which is a private permission blockchain. And so what that allows people to do, it allows the network participants to track and trace food directly from its source, like the farm, all the way to the retailer and sometimes to the consumer. So the Food Trust Network is super interesting because it's using blockchain to show consumers like myself, like you guys, where your food comes from. And that's all powered by blockchain, powered by Hyperledger Fabric, private permission network, which, let me explain this to you guys, it's different than the Bitcoin blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain is an open public blockchain network. A private permission network, such as Hyperledger Fabric, it's closed to the network participants. It's still open in some ways, but for the most part, the information remains closed. If a network participant wants to see information, that information can usually be requested. Although everything is recorded on a transparent network, it's just not as open like the Bitcoin network is. So a lot of enterprises choose to use private permission networks because it keeps their information private, yet they still have that transparency and information is still recorded on the ledger. So you can see all of those transactions. You can see that, an avocado was grown in this farm and then it was sent to, wherever they get sent. And then it was sent to the grocery store and then it was sent, or then you bought it, and you can actually see sometimes that entire transactional chain just because blockchain is powering that. So 2018, enterprise blockchain emerged. Super cool. I became even more interested in that because, for me, a consumer, someone who's very conscious about where their food comes from and where other things come from, blockchain is really all about transparency, immutability, and it's not just for the companies leveraging it, but it's also for the consumers as well. So I'm going to get into another really interesting use case about that coming up, and that's actually using a public blockchain for enterprise blockchain. So I hope you guys are still following me. I'm just going to jump into 2019 now. So in 2019, what I started seeing as a journalist covering the space was the emergence of security tokens and regulations. So I'll start by speaking about regulations. So if you think about the space, 2017, really a lot about ICOs, cryptocurrencies. 2018, the major players like IBM, Oracle, Salesforce, they start leveraging blockchain as a technology. 2019, regulations come into play. Why? Because mainstream adoption is starting to happen. And that's just what happens when mainstream adoption occurs. Regulations come into place. So what do I mean by regulations? I mean that cryptocurrency and taxes start gaining some traction. Now, everybody that makes transactions using digital currencies has to report that for their taxes. And we started really seeing that, occur in 2019. I think that, laws were being passed saying that, we're going to have to start reporting cryptocurrency transactions on our taxes. Another thing that started happening in 2019 was something similar to the Bank Secrecy Act, which is, and I actually learned about this, I'm looking at some notes here, at a Cipher Trace conference in 2019. The Financial Action Task Force guidelines came about, which explained how digital assets should be regulated. So what that meant, it's known as the travel rule, and that requires regulators and virtual asset service providers, which are cryptocurrency exchanges, to collect and share personal data during transactions. Now, this guideline is very similar to the Bank Secrecy Act, and we started seeing that emerge in 2019. So that's another example of a regulation on top of the whole crypto tax thing. Also, interestingly enough, and I've reported on some stories about this, crypto taxes, when they started gaining traction, which actually they still are right now, but like big firms like Thomson Reuters, they're involved with some of the crypto tax side of things. So we're seeing a lot of, larger firms also getting into this space in terms of regulations, which is pretty interesting. So now I'll chat a little bit about the security side of things. So interestingly enough, I first heard the term STO, which is a security token offering, in the summer of 2018. I was fortunate enough to go to a polymath roundtable in Barbados, which was all about STOs. And at that time, I actually still confused STOs with ICOs. And it was really embarrassing because we were all having this roundtable discussion about STOs, and I really didn't get it. I was like, STO, ICO, like, what's the difference? So anyways, that was 2018, super early for STOs. 2019, we're really we started seeing more STOs emerge. So basically, STOs are when investors receive tokens for funding projects, and those tokens are backed by real world assets like stocks, bonds, or real estate. So rather than ICOs, which are, backed by tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there were a lot of scams associated with ICOs, it's really unfortunate. STOs are backed by real world assets. Interestingly enough, we also have been seeing real estate security tokens gain traction. I was just reading a wonderful Cointelegraph article about this, that real estate security tokens make up 14.5% of total trade in tokenized securities. So pretty interesting. I see a lot of potential for tokenized real estate transactions and all of that. So yeah, 2019, regulations and securities. Finally, 2020 happens, the best year ever so far, right? Anyways, and so in my opinion, in 2020, what we start seeing are the serious players remaining in the space. So a lot of the ICOs that were, scammy, whatever, a lot of those bad actors kind of disappeared. 2020, we still see really great projects and real world innovation happening. IBM Blockchain, Oracle, Salesforce, VeChain, Real Items Foundation, what they're doing. I mean, just so many more companies that, I don't want to drop so many names, but you guys get the point. These are serious players using blockchain for real world applications to provide transparency, immutability, accountability, everything that a blockchain ledger provides that a normal database simply can't. I mean, when it comes to transparency, blockchain is really the way to go, which is why supply chain management for blockchain is one of the most interesting use cases, and I write a lot about that. Okay, current state of blockchain. I think I have a few minutes left, but I'll just talk about some of the most interesting stories that I've covered lately. So I'm going to start off by talking about VeChain's public blockchain. VeChain is a public blockchain. It's different than Hyperledger Fabric, or IBM Blockchain, which is powered by Hyperledger Fabric. That's private permission. VeChain is public, it's open, and interestingly enough, it's being leveraged by Real Items Company to trace and ensure that KN95 masks are authentic. Right now, obviously, there's a huge shortage of medical supplies with COVID-19 happening, and Real Items Company is leveraging VeChain's blockchain to ensure that these products are authentic by having all those transactions with the company that they're working with put on the VeChain ledger to show consumers, once they get those masks, they can actually scan a barcode and see, oh, this mask was produced in this factory, and it is a legitimate KN95 mask, as opposed to the fake ones, which actually there's a lot of fake KN95 masks out there and other products that come from China that are fake. So VeChain's public blockchain is really incredible, especially for this use case, which I'm extremely interested in learning more about. Another interesting use of blockchain that we're seeing today are voting systems, blockchain-based voting systems. For instance, votes, I know that they've been leveraged. I think they were just leveraged in the Utah election, but they've also been used in the West Virginia election. And it's just a blockchain-based voting system, meaning that you can do this on your mobile phone. You can vote. Everything gets recorded to the ledger. I'm not sure if it's their own blockchain or if they're leveraging another network, but everything gets recorded. Votes are sent in. You can make sure that your vote actually counts because it's a transparent process. So I think we're going to start seeing blockchain-based voting systems emerge, especially this year with COVID-19. Keep in mind, while blockchain-based voting systems provide more transparency because it's a blockchain network, they are not more secure than just regular internet-based voting systems. Blockchains really in this use case simply provide transparency. So a lot of people think, oh, well, blockchain networks might be more secure. No, that's not the case. At least that's what I've been told. That's what I think. Maybe somebody is going to disagree. Who knows? Anyways, another interesting use case of blockchain today, and a lot of this has to do with COVID-19 because that's just kind of the situation we're in, but it's being leveraged to provide trusted COVID-19 data. So like there's a platform, it's called MiPasa. They're leveraging IBM's blockchain network to provide trusted COVID-19 data for health officials. Basically, they've partnered with a bunch of organizations that provide that data, including the World Health Organization, which is pretty unbelievable. That data is getting uploaded to IBM's blockchain network. And, you know, just through the transparency and data analytics, it's not just blockchain in this case, data analytics plays a big role. MiPasa's network is ensuring that that data is actually correct, accurate, and that it can be trusted. Once that data has been confirmed that it is legitimate data, then they send that out to health officials and they can, you know, make use of that. But there's a lot of misinformation right now. So in this case, blockchain and data analytics really does help. Let's see here. Actually, I don't have this one on my slide, but this is something that I covered, let's see, just a few days ago. IBM's blockchain network, they have, it's the Rapid Supplier Connect network. It's built on IBM blockchain. And basically what that's doing is it's leveraging blockchain technology to connect buyers, like buyers as in hospitals, to non-traditional PPE suppliers. So non-traditional PPE suppliers, meaning like a clothing company making masks for COVID-19. So a lot of the times these hospitals need to be connected to these new non-traditional suppliers. And what the Rapid Supplier Connect network is doing is it's using blockchain to connect hospitals to clothing companies, for example, that are making masks. And all of those transactions, everything is recorded on the blockchain. There's digital identity that's being leveraged. I forget who's dealing with that, but digital identity is being leveraged there to ensure that all the players on the network are legitimate, good actors, to ensure that, you know, products aren't fake. So I think that the Rapid Supplier Connect network is a really good use of blockchain today as well. Let's see here. So basically, I mean, overall, I think that blockchain as a technology in the real world really brings transparency, immutability, accountability to networks or to industries actually that lack that. So for instance, you know, the supply chain is a complicated system. A lot of those supply chains lack transparency, and blockchain can help solve that. So in my opinion, blockchain for supply chain management is one of the best use cases. Blockchain for voting is another great use case. Joel, how are we doing on time? Are we okay, or am I just blabbering now?
Well, you're not blabbering. It's all good stuff, but we do need to wrap it up because we've got our keynote. Okay,
sure. So anyways, I'm sure everybody gets the point. Blockchain has really come a long way since 2017, when it was basically this kind of sketchy space filled with ICOs, cryptocurrency, this and that. And now it's being leveraged by the World Health Organization to track COVID-19 data. I mean, we've come a long way in 3 years. It's amazing. So I'll just wrap up by saying, you know, a lot of people that have read my articles might be interested in how to pitch a journalist like myself. So I'm going to say something really important. Oops, that's my timer.
It's time.
That's my timer. But just know what the journalist beats are. I'm Enterprise Blockchain. I love that. I like to write about that. You can reach out to me on Twitter at RachelWolf00, email, LinkedIn, follow up if I don't get back to you. I'm very friendly and responsive. And that's it. Thanks, Joel.
I can vouch for that. You are friendly and responsive.